the dynamic between Alice and Marshall, because to me, those scenes are pretty uncomfy to me as a viewer. And I want to know your perspective, Liz, Liz, from you as crafting the series, and Emmy, as you performing it, making sure that these two can share screen time, this woman and her abuser, and it be productive to the plot. And also, Emmy, for you, bringing to life that tension and navigating that in those scenes with Jake as well.
Yeah, I mean, I the, it's the genesis of this project was about I knew the movie Black Widow from 1987, which is this female serial killer and a female FBI agent, and that led to, okay, this story needs to be about two victims of violence, like, and how they've taken their experience and gone in two different really different directions with it. So I knew that the FBI agent had to also be a victim of violence, and I I was really interested in what is the experience of being a woman in law enforcement who is also a victim of violence,
Mm.
having seen the ways that the justice system sort of is flawed when it comes to violence against women, and still staying in that job and trying to find justice for other women in the
Yeah.
midst of all of that. Like, that felt like a really great, complicated place for a character. And then I tried to just do as much research as I could. So I spoke to an assistant district attorney in Brooklyn who focuses on domestic violence, and just kind of spoke to her about all the kind of various ways that the system doesn't work, but the ways that they're trying to change it, and kind of getting a sense of what that was, and how the way she talked about just as a prosecutor needing to make one person the good guy and one person the bad guy in court, and how that there's often so many more complicated dynamics going on, and just a lot of misunderstanding about domestic violence, I think. And then specifically about the Marshall relationship, there's an amazing documentary, A Better Man, that is about it's a couple, and they film them coming back to talk about abuse that happened when they dated when they were younger. And it's really tough to watch, but really interesting, because the man is not just immediately vilified, which I think is like, it's never, it always seems like too easy to me to make people just bad. I feel like you have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
dig in and like think about why people make choices that they make. And that was really important to me in the Marshall Alice relationship, that we kind of like maintained humanity throughout and never let the audience get too comfortable with judgments.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think, specifically for a woman in law enforcement, it for Alice, it's very hard for her to get justice for herself. I don't think she believes that she can or really wants to, or has the faith that it would work out. And so there's a lot of shame about not having pursued justice for herself,
Mm.
and also a lot of complicated feelings about her abuser, because he wasn't always just that. By the
Yeah.
end of the third episode, we realized that he was home of a sort from the time that she was an early teenage girl, that they have, a 20 plus year history of having been in each other's lives, that there was love there, and a kind of family, an alt family feeling there, that there was chemistry there, that they both went into the same profession, so they must have understood the intensity of the job that they both had together. And then at points in the relationship, there was also, alongside all of that love and that oasis, violence and control and oppression. And I think that the character has left her detective position and which is not an easy position to earn, and started over at the bottom at the FBI, and is hoping that she won't have to come in contact with that person anymore, that she's not going to get justice for herself, but she can leave that behind and move and start over. And of course, she ends up having to work with that person all over again. And we see the very real ways in which that history has affected her ability to take care of herself, clean herself, herself, take a shower, and the way that it's also affected her relationship with her physical self, her disconnection from her own body, her relationship to her own sexuality, and the intensity that's needed there to feel anything. So I think it's an incredibly dynamic and nuanced portrayal, that it is one that I found arresting to read and complicated and challenging to hold all of those parts of something. How could you, that one line is, I miss touching the back of your neck. And for me, that just broke me.
Yeah.
Because, two things can be true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love. I mean, love is it doesn't have there isn't a space for love really in the justice system,
Mhm.
So it's like, and that is such a huge part of domestic violence,
Yeah.
the complications of being in love with somebody who's hurting you and what that feels like.
I loved how this series seemed to upend what I thought about it at the end of every episode. I thought I had figured out the status quo of the series, and at the end of every episode, it just like was completely flipped. And I think that I initially thought, okay, we have this, cat and mouse type game going on, but I think we learn in the later episodes of the first batch of the premiere that the when she's looking for her friend, in which she realized that she has this other layer and she's also in contact with her friend's sister. And there's more than just this, maybe revenge plot or her getting back at those who have wronged her. It's much more than that. So how do you think at the end of episode 3, the audience is able to like, piece together things and learn more about what she's really after in this series?
Yeah, so I think that's like why people love this genre, right? Is like everybody loves to play a detective. And I think Liz is so great at holding things back until they need to be revealed and letting people hang on and sort of like you said, upending everything at the end of every episode. And the second that you think you have it figured out, the rug is pulled beneath your feet. And
Mhm.
so as a fan of the genre, that's just, incredible when you get the chance to inhabit that world. And I think that I hope it'll be enjoyable for the audience to be able to try to piece it together and feel like they can't quite and right up until the very end.
You mean I knew that this series was going to be something when that opening scene, you had this guy who's clearly grasping for his life, and then,
Mhm.
she's about to eat some candy. And I'm like, okay, we're about to be in for that sort of ride. So what was it like being filming some of those crazy death sequences and you're playing a character who can just turn on the flip of a dime? What was that like for you?
I mean, it's a total gift. I think whenever a team trusts you enough to like let you follow your instincts and go as far as you want to go with things, that's always an honor as an actor. So working with the team that were as collaborative as this and that trusted me to go to those places felt really beautiful. Um, and that's the lovely thing about Catherine is you never quite know what she's going to do. And I think she definitely surprised even me a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say like when you were reading the script and you're reading these episodes, and right now we're at the point where, Alice is learning more about, Catherine and what's happening and whatnot. Um, do you think if you can just tease without spoiling anything, do you think by the end of the series we have a clear-cut idea of what she was aiming for and what she was looking to solve, or what she was looking to reckon within herself by committing these crimes? Or do you think a lot of that may be left up to interpretation of the audience?
I certainly think that we have a fair idea of what she was hoping to achieve. I think, you can't really completely know anyone. And I certainly think with every audience member, it's going to be so different. And I think that's because they'll recognize or not recognize parts of themselves in her and her mission. I think her motives are clear, but sort of who she is as a person is always going to be quite difficult to figure out because, in a way, she has been forced into a situation and forced into being this type of person
Mhm.
against her will. And so, who she is always going to be a little mysterious.
Yes, yes. Well, I can't wait to see the rest of the season. I enjoyed chatting with you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Val.
Hi,
Hi,
Scoop,
Trey.
Quincy, and Jake. How are you three doing today?
Great.
Yeah,
How
well,
are
how are you?
you?
I'm doing great. I only have a few minutes, so I have one question for all three of you. Um, in this series, I feel like I knew what the status quo was after each episode. I feel like I knew what was happening. And then after every episode, it just kept getting upended time and time again. So now I'm like, you know what? I don't know what the status quo of the show is because I thought that it was like maybe like this cat and mouse thriller, taking inspiration from the film, things like that. But we see more and more layers being peeled back about these characters as time goes on. So for each of you, how do you think that this series for you, like, when you're stepping into this role, upends what you may have expected this series to be about? And
Really
we can
good.
go like left to right.
Great question. I think what Liz really did extraordinary well is take a female serial killer and use it like an onion. That it's not so simple as that. It's incredibly complex, and on its face is a female serial killer that's doing something that you don't know if it's justified or what it is. And as that onion peels, you find out that there's so much more complexity to what's happening, as well as the onion of each of the characters is peeling as well, that there's so much more going on in complexity to each of the individual characters.
Yeah,
Y-
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so rich. I read, I got the, do you want to audition for this crime thriller? So of course I have a preconceived notion of what it's going to be. And then as I'm looking at the material, I'm seeing, oh no, this is like a character study. This is going to be like a really deep dive into this complex, unique, surprising, larger than life, theatrical, damaged person, which as an actor, that's just like, candy. So Liz really, like, she gave us, I think all, I won't speak for everyone, but she gave me a tremendous gift in this character because I got to, like, just sink my teeth into her.
And I also love how jaded she is at the same time. Like,
Oh,
I feel
totally.
like
Totally.
I feel like
She's
we see
everything.
we see her war, but like I was just like she's a mood. She's definitely a mood.
Oh my God, please. Yeah. Don't get me started.
I felt like, I spoke to Liz and she described how she wanted Marshall to be or how she envisioned Marshall. And sometimes people have like the best of intentions and then can't really execute that, like the reason that like tropes of like the bad boyfriend or the dirty cop or exist is because like they're easy. It's easy to go to that as a story point to go like, yeah, and then they do this thing and it moves the story ahead. And it's really a huge credit to Liz that each of these characters, without like care and talent and some courage to investigate these characters fully, could just be two-dimensional kind of rote characters in a cop show. And at least for me, I've felt like the writing, the backstory for Marshall, the dynamic between Alice and Marshall, all of it was treated with such specificity and care, without like kid gloves though, made it really fulfilling to work on this and try to like then fulfill that thing, that she's set this bar for what the story is. And to have that this character tension running alongside like a whodunit kind of cat and mouse thing is so fun. The story's constantly, shifting between one of those elements and the other, and that they inform one another as opposed to just being like, I don't want to name names, but there's some cop shows where you go like, he's got a bad attitude because his daughter's going through it. And you're like, hold on, that's the whole thing? And this like gives you the like actual human reasons as to why people are making the choices they're making. Yeah, all credit to Liz.
Well, thank you three so much for chatting with me. I can't wait to watch more of this series, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You
Thank you
too.
so much.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you.
Nice to meet you as well.